Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and patch 9.1 is going to be here on PTR very soon. So a lot of players are coming back to the game in preparation for patch 9.1, and one of the things you got to set up is your add-ons. Quite a lot of you guys have actually asked me, what is my add-on setup? Which add-ons do I run for managing my alts when it comes to Mythic pluses? How do I get my setup? How do I get my look? And while my add-ons I don't think is the most complicated and the most extravagant looking setup, I do want to share with you guys all the add-ons that I've been using, all the important add-ons that I find need to have for the patch of 9.05, as well as going forward into patch 9.1. Hopefully you guys find this video kind of interesting. I don't really find my add-on setup all that anything extra, but hopefully it'll get you guys up and running, playing your characters and exploring the game and trying out, maybe get into a higher end content, as a lot of these add-ons are going to be basically required for Mythic pluses as well as raids. Some of you guys like the WoW default UI and others really don't like it. There's definitely some advantages and disadvantages with it, but the main reason why I'm usually basing most of my UI setup around the WoW default UI with the bars and everything is mostly because it was easier for me at the time to go between the alpha version of the game, the beta, the PTR, and the live version without having to maintain all those add-ons that drastically change the way it looks. So most of this video is going to be done with the default Blizzard UI. To make this UI a bit more comfortable, I use the add-on called Easy Frames. It fattens up the health bars a little bit for you and the enemy. It can also even display what the class of the ally might be or the enemy, useful in PvP. And overall, I just find it much easier for me to track the health bars, especially in high stress situations. I find it's much easier just to keep a track of my character, to know whether I need to pop a defensive if I'm in trouble or if I'm okay, to know if the boss is very close to death and I can switch to my execute rotation and stuff like that. To set up these bars, I do it through a kind of janky way, and you could definitely get a grid add-on if you want to, in order to show you exactly where to put these bars, but what I usually use is a personal resource display, which at the bottom shows your health bar and, well, personal resource display. They added this feature, I think, either in BFA or in Shadowlands, and I've been kind of using it to track where I want to put my health bars at. I turn it on, and I line up the energy bar with the energy bar at the bottom. And you can also do it with a mana bar and mana bar if you're a mana using class. It's kind of a janky way of going about it. For a lot of my characters, I did go into a WTF folder, and I'm able to copy some of the presets from my main onto my alts once I have them established with the files, to make sure that all the health bars are basically exactly the same for all my characters. You can keep the personal resource display on or off afterwards. I actually keep it on for my character, and it ends up mimicking a lot of the WeakAuras that people use to track buffs and debuffs and resources. So it ends up working out for my character really well, especially if your character uses a variety of different buffs to maintain, but you don't have to have it on. I just like to, put my health bars down the center, and that's how I do it. From there on, if you want to set it up, I would go about by going into the interface and go into Easy Frames. And just make sure that your setup for the settings for player, target, and focus are about the same as mine. There's a lot of features that you can use and adjust the way that your bars look in Easy Frames. Like, for example, you can have the player name outside of the bar or inside of the bar. For you, for target, and just a lot of configuration customization. You can really adjust the way your bars look, even give them different textures and such. But this is more or less how my bars look. Once you got your bars how you like them, make sure to go into the display in the interface folder and make sure to switch status text to both in order to get my look of percentage of the enemy's health on the left side and the actual health on the right side. Another details that everybody is going to run is either Skada or a details of some sort of a damage tracker. Details and Skada are two of the most popular ones, and I choose details. There's a couple different things you can do with details, like a variety of different plugins, which I can find helpful sometimes, but I mostly use details just for the looks of it. I just like how clean the add-on looks and how concise everything is. It shows me exactly the numbers that I want to see whenever I'm playing a new character or I'm playing my main and I'm trying to improve on my DPS. And in details, you can change the name of your character, or rather a nickname, and your friends and people on the server will also see the same nickname. By going into details option panel, bottom right is going to be nickname, and you can call yourself whatever you want to within limits. So this is why most of you guys, whenever you see videos of mine or streams, you see my name listed as Blade Flurry, even though my name is actually Dalaran XP. This can be sometimes fun to do, as you can have some jokes between guildies. For example, after about 300 pulls on SLG, someone changes the name to 300 more to go is pretty funny to look at, but this simply adds a little bit extra customizability. Also, there's a plugin for both Skada and Details called Covenants that shows what Covenants players are, and that's something you'll see on my stream pretty regularly. I just have it there so the viewers can see exactly who is playing what. Next, we're gonna check out the WeakAuras. By tapping WA, once you download the WeakAura add-on, you'll see all of your WeakAuras. WeakAuras add extra visual elements on your screen, even sound elements as well. Most players will use it for maybe tracking certain boss mechanics, to have a bar appear on your screen when a boss is about to use a powerful attack. Or maybe if you're next in the kick rotation, it'll make sure to blink at you, maybe even throw out some kind of a sound in order to let you know that you are next in the interrupt order. But also other players use it to track your resources. Like for example, I just downloaded a WeakAura that shows me all of the Assassination rogue abilities that I'm going to be using for combat. Usually it's best to drag your health bars kind of further away from the center of your screen. For my setup, for the middle of the center UI, health bars won't really work for this, but it shows me my energy, combo points, my damage over time abilities, when should I refresh those damage over time abilities, shows me how long my vendetta will last, kidney shot, cooldown, interrupt, vanish, and you can add a lot more elements to track. You can track your trinkets, you can track other procs, it can track a lot of things. Lots of players customize their WeakAuras, but customizing it, making it yourself from scratch is very difficult. It's usually best to just take someone else's setup for WeakAuras and just apply it to your character. It's pretty easy to get WeakAuras. Just go to the WAG.io website and find the WeakAura you want, copy it, and go back into the WeakAura of the add-on in-game and paste the code in. And you can scale it down, move it around, place it wherever you want to. And there's a lot of customizability and a lot of WeakAuras, so definitely take a look at the website and all that it has to offer. Then you have Simcraft. I feel like I've talked about Simcraft in every single guide, but basically this add-on takes a full script of your character and the items in your bags and lets you use the Raidbots website in order to sim your character to find out a lot of valuable information. Nowadays, just about everybody uses Raidbots website to find out how much damage they should be doing, what the rotation might be like, what stats are the best for them, are there any upgrades for gear inside of their bags, and more. There's a lot of things you can do with Raidbots website, but basically if you're someone who's playing the game competitively for any reason or is trying to improve in any PvE content, you're probably going to be using Raidbots website. You're going to be simming your character to find out which gear in your bags is the biggest upgrade and learning how to play your character overall. Next is going to be a nifty little add-on called Astral Keys. Astral Keys tracks all of my characters on my alts when it comes to the Mythic pluses. What keys have they done this week? What keys are in their bags, and which characters I haven't done a weekly on just yet. It also shows you what keys your friends have. So if you're trying to go for KSM and a friend of yours has that Spires of Ascension, let them know so you can run that key this week. You can also see the affixes that are useful for this week, and you can also see the affixes for the next week and then even the week after that. So you can plan your push weeks and then your easy weeks. For example, this week isn't really the biggest push week, so I'm just getting some easy keys done this week. Next week, though, is a decent push week, as long as you're not melee, so I might get some keys done here and there. Next, we got some group add-ons that you'll be using in dungeons, raids, and PvP. One of them is going to be MDT. I feel like I've talked about MDT before, and I feel like just about everybody knows what Mythic Dungeon Tools is. But Mythic Dungeon Tools basically gives you an overview of the map and lets you calculate exactly how much percentage you need based on which mobs you want to kill. It's a great add-on for you to plan which enemies you want to fight when it comes to getting your Mythic Plus done, in terms of getting your percentages so you can spawn those Pride mobs when you need to. It also gives you a lot more tools to draw all over the map. So if you want to make a, let's say, a marker where you're going to tell your allies or friends that you're going to do a shroud skip as a rogue, you can actually put a marker on it, add a note, and then later you can actually share your route with your friends. Just about everybody uses MDT, whether you're pugging or whether you're doing it with friends. It's a pretty good way for you to take a look at the dungeon ahead of time and plan out exactly how you're going to play it out, which enemies you want to pull, which ones you don't want to pull, and can give you an idea on percentages. MDT is a great way for you to get a little bit extra insight at the dungeon you're about to do, and can share your route with your tanks or healers or anybody in your group. It's great for pugs to know exactly how you would like to run the pulls, and it's great for your friends to also see exactly what percentages are and which mobs you might want to pull and which ones you might want to avoid. It's overall pretty good for keys. The next add-on on the list is going to be Sarena, and I prefer Sarena over Gladius, even though both of them are really good arenas or arena tracking add-ons, but I like Sarena because of just how compact it is. I think it's really clean, especially if you use some of the setups. Some of the presets I enjoy is probably the Zarya preset. I think that one is probably the cleanest one to look at out of all of them. In Sarena, it shows you the enemy cooldowns if they'll pop in any massive CDs, offensives or even defensives. It shows you the diminishing returns on the CC of those enemies, so you know you gotta wait and kidney shot the enemy 2 seconds later instead of right now. Otherwise, the enemy's diminishing returns are gonna kick in and they won't be sitting inside of that stun for nearly as long. It also shows you the enemy trinkets, probably one of the most important things to track inside of Arena. This way you know whether you have a big go or you still need to force defenses and trinkets out of enemies before you can have your real big setup. This is probably, in my opinion, the best Arena add-on you can get. And if you are going to go for a very minimalist setup, something similar to what I do, if you're going to get a limited amount of add-ons to play in your World of Warcraft experience, for arenas, this is the one add-on I would say out of all of them is the one that you truly really need. The next add-on we got on the list is ERT, Exorsus Raid Tools. This add-on tracks everything you need for raids, like you can track raid cooldowns in terms of knowing which cooldowns you have available for your raid and which ones you don't have available. Like as a tank, if you need a pain suppression and you can tell if your Disc Priest has one or not, then you can call for it. It has timers, a variety of different timers for a bunch of different abilities for any raid leader to track, but even anybody inside of the raid to see as well. And also it has notes. If you have, let's say, a soak order for abilities or specific mechanics somebody needs to perform, the notes is the most handy option in my opinion. And over the last expansion, I've been playing a lot with big wigs and little wigs when it comes to my timers and announcements for raid fights. But recently I've transitioned to Deadly Boss Mods. Deadly Boss Mods is very similar to DBM, except it's just a little bit more aggressive at all these announcements. It has pretty clean looking bars in my opinion, and it will flash the lights at you a lot. It'll also make horn sounds at you a lot for this deadly mechanics. And honestly, I don't hate it. I thought that I would hate DBM, but I actually kind of prefer it, especially when I'm live streaming and I can talk to my chat and DBM will announce to me that, hey, you're standing in the bad, and you can move out of it pretty quickly. There's plenty of customization with DBM too, so if you hate all the sounds, you can turn them off. They look aesthetically about the same as the bigwigs, but I felt like Deadly Boss Mods just come with everything, with dungeons, with raids, all the different announcements for everything. And after using DBM for a bit, I prefer it more. You may run DBM, you may run bigwigs, but if you're someone like me and you enjoy the add-ons we've talked about in this video already, might as well give Deadly Boss Mods a go. Maybe you'll prefer it in dungeons or prefer it in your next raid. I feel like the bars and all the different announcements are fairly clean. Yes, they are a little aggressive sometimes, but there are some things you can tweak and turn off if you want to. Overall, you will have to have a bigwigs or a DBM in order to dungeons and raids, because just about everybody runs these add-ons, or unless you're someone who can keep track of all the different mechanics constantly, which is something I used to try to do back in the day. You can if you want to, but it really does help out having some sort of a timer and bars telling you exactly when mechanics are coming up, so you can line up your cooldowns better and be more efficient as a player. And that's going to be my video on all the add-ons that I'm currently using for my characters, and it ends up working out pretty well. It ends up coming out to be somewhat of a simplistic setup, just trying to be kind of almost on purpose minimalist as possible, but I personally do prefer it. I prefer the download method of WoWUp in order to get my add-ons, so I'll have a link to WoWUp down below. WoWUp UI looks very similar to the Twitch UI, so if you used to download your add-ons through the Twitch app, it'll be very familiar and similar in terms of the layout and the way that it works. So if you want to look up any of the add-ons listed in this video, I have a list down in the description so you guys can get the full list yourselves and download more add-ons if you want to download more. But that's going to be my mostly minimalist setup. I know I probably could make it even cleaner, even more professional, and maybe in future patches I'll work on something more interesting, but right now I just wanted an add-on that works really well for, I guess it was the alpha, the beta, and the live version of the game, so I don't really need to switch out different presets anytime I want to check out different versions of the game. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see all of you guys, as always, in another video.